I'm pretty sure soon we will be, once everybody has got their 2 shots and the pandemic is slowing down, we will be able to do that, actually host sessions in person. Okay. Great. Thank you for everyone who is slowly coming in, joining us. Another few minutes, yeah.
I'm pretty ready to go here. So if I can kindly just ask you to admit while I'm speaking, that would be great.
Great, sure.
Okay, we'll get started in about a minute or so. Sarita, should we begin then for those who have
sure.
Yeah.
So I don't see anybody in the waiting room right now with the, oh, yeah. Did you just admit them?
Let me just double. Actually, I have to just give me 1 second.
Yeah. Because once you share.
Okay. Okay, they're admitted now.
Okay, great.
Okay, so welcome everyone and good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today for our program called Newcomer Success Stories. My name is Sukhjit Combo with Brampton Library. I would like to begin with our land acknowledgement this evening. We would like to acknowledge that Brampton is located on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them the traditional territory of Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Next, I would like to provide a quick library update at this time. As of June 21st, our 3 branches, Chinguacousy, Springdale, and which other one was it? Four Corners, are now open for in-branch hold pickups, brief use of computers, and for transactional purposes, which also include printing, photocopying services. This slide here does outline our branch hours for in-person use and for curbside hours and locations, but please visit our website, bramptonlibrary.ca, for complete details. And for more information about our virtual programs, please visit our calendar of events, and for other information, any kind about the library, our website is bramptonlibrary.ca. Okay, and I would just like to go over a few housekeeping rules. For anyone that is attending this session, we would like to inform you that this session will be live streamed on our Facebook library page, and this session will also be recorded, and it may be used by the library at a later time on our portals. If you do have questions throughout the session, we would like to ask that you put your questions in the chat box, and we will interrupt the speaker if the question is relevant at that time. But do keep in mind, we do have a question period after we have asked the speakers all of our interview questions. I will now be handing it over to Sarita to start our program.
Thank you, Sukhjit. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Sarita Dey. I'm the coordinator of community engagement and partnership here at Brampton Library. So today I have the pleasure of another co-host, Michael Vickers. He is the senior program lead at the Arts, Culture, and Creative Industry Development Agency here in Brampton. So let me tell you a little bit about this agency. The Arts, Culture, and Creative Industry Development Agency is a unique organization incubating under the City of Brampton, focused on growing, celebrating, advocating for, and connecting the arts sector through the provision of a range of programs, services, and resources. The agency is a key partner in delivering the city's ambitious vision for arts, culture, and creative industries as articulated in the city's strategic vision and cultural master plan. And now about Michael himself. He is an award-winning artist recognized by the Ontario Arts Council, Toronto Arts Council, and Canadian Council for the Arts. Prior to joining the agency, Michael served as co-director of Akin Collective, a GTHA arts organization that provides creative studio space as well as arts-based programming, and held roles with the Museum of Contemporary Art Toronto, the City of Toronto's Year of the Public Art, and numerous arts organizations in Toronto and New York City. Michael has taught contemporary art at Humber College, lectured at Humber College and OCAD University, and held art residence at Banff Center for Arts and Creativity. So happy to have you with us, Michael.
Thank you. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Also, I want to give a shout out tonight to Anas Rashid. Anas, if you could wave your hand. And he is from the City of Brampton, and we want to thank them for their support. And now, what we have been all waiting for this evening, I have the pleasure to introduce our lovely and successful guests. Sandhya Srivatsan is the artistic director of the Indian classical vocal music school called Gaanavarshini. She hails from a family of musicians and loves to train students aspiring to perform solo and group concerts in Indian classical music. She has trained students to perform concerts, participate in competitions, and created awareness in the community about the ancient classical art from Southern India. With her global experience in performing, students are enriched by her expertise. As a collaborator, she trains her students to perform with diverse artists and percussionists. Sandhya is also a gerontologist. She provides interactive, intergenerational music sessions to elderly seniors in the community. Sandhya has successfully weaved her passion and her training in classical music from her home country to her new adopted country. So happy to have you, and welcome, Sandhya.
Thank you, Sarita, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening.
We are happy to have you. Okay, our next guest her name is Sushmitha Parthasarathy. Sushmitha is a passionate Bharatanatyam dancer. Bharatanatyam is one of the most respected traditional classical dance forms in India. Sushmitha started at a very early age She started learning Bharatanatyam at the age of 4 under the tutelage of Professor D.K. Kumar, a teaching faculty at Kalakshetra, Chennai, India, and also a disciple of Uma Rao, who was trained by none other than Rukmini Devi Arundel. Sushmitha has earned many accolades through dance performance, both in India and in Canada. She also holds degrees in Bachelor of Commerce and MBA in Human Resources. In 2016, Sushmitha started her dance school called Abhinaya Performing Arts Centre for all ages and wants to maintain the principle of Guru Shishya Parampara, which means succession from teacher to student. She wants to spread the awareness of this rich artistic heritage among fellow Canadians from various ethnicities. We warmly welcome you, Sushmitha. Okay, great. So now, great.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Sarita. It's a great pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. And now we have a few burning questions for both our artists. And we also encourage the audience, when it's question period time, to please put your questions in the chat, or you can put them earlier on and we'll pick them up either as we go along or at the end of the evening. So now over to you, Michael.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to join us and yeah, have what I know already from meeting everyone will be a really interesting and engaging conversation. Sandhya, if I could jump to you first. I know in our earlier conversations, we were speaking a lot about Indian classical music. And I wondered if you could sort of, for everyone that's joined us this evening, talk a little bit more about sort of the origins and tell us a little bit more about Carnatic music. I know that you're also an amazing singer. I don't know if you'd be willing to kind of perform for us even, and just, you know, I think that's probably the best way to learn about it would be for if you'd be willing to kind of share your amazing voice with everyone that's here tonight.
Absolutely, Michael. I'll definitely be very happy to share the rich cultural heritage of India. To answer your question regarding the origins, Indian classical music is broadly classified as Karnataka Sangeetam, popularly known as Carnatic music, and Hindustani music. So Carnatic music is predominantly from the southern parts of India, whereas Hindustani music is from the northern part. And if you trace the origins of Carnatic music, it can be actually said that they have 4 origins. One, they say it is the divine origin. And the second, they say the natural origins from nature, from the sounds of the birds. And the third is from the folk. The folk music also said to have a natural origin, is considered by many scholars as one source that has influenced Carnatic music. And then we have the Vedic origins. It is generally accepted that the Vedas are probably the source of Indian music, which has developed over centuries into the sophisticated system that we have today. And for those of you who don't know, the word Veda means knowledge. So the thousands of hymns in the Vedas, which are dedicated to the gods and Hindu rituals in the form of chants, were passed down through oral tradition from generation to generation. So if you look at the history and, from the origins, we look at the history of Carnatic music, it's basically ancient, medieval, and modern that you can divide it into. And it's right from the 4th century. So it's very vast and very rich in its component. And it's the beauty of this whole art form is that it is passed down through oral traditions. So through centuries, it has stood this a test of time. And it's only through gurus and the gurus or the teachers who have imparted it to the next generations. So I would like to, because there are so many languages in Carnatic music, I would like to start by just singing a short song in Sanskrit. And this meaning is very beautiful. And it was first sung at the United Nations by the well-known, world-renowned Carnatic music singer, Dr. M.S. Subbulakshmi. And this was in Sanskrit, composed by Jagadguru Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati. He's known as the Paramacharya of Kanchipuram. And so this is a Ragamalika, which means it's a garland of tunes or ragas. So before I go into the song, I thought I will give you a brief description of the song, the meaning behind it, for those of you who do not know Sanskrit. It's to cultivate friendship and humility, which will conquer the hearts of everyone. And it also looks upon others as similar to yourself. So renounce war, forsake competition, give up aggression, and then the Mother Earth yields all that we desire. And so she gives us everything, the food, the clothes. And so there's only one Father, there's only one God who's very compassionate to all of us. And let's practice restraint and donate our wealth to others. Be kind to the entire world. And that's how it concludes. Shreyo bhuyat sakala janana. So I'll just switch on my tambura, which is a drone instrument, which is used in every classical Carnatic music performance. Maitri bhajata akila jetri. Maitri bhajata akila jetri. Maitri bhajata akila jetri. Atmavadeva paranapi pashyata. Atmavadeva paranapi pashyata. Yudam tyajata sada tyajata. Tyajata pareshva kramamakramanam. Tyajata pareshva kramamakramanam. Maitri bhajata akila jetri. Janani prithvi kamadohaste. Janani prithvi kamadohaste. Janako deva sakala dayalu. Janako deva sakala dayalu. Damyate datta dayatvam janata. Damyate datta dayatvam janata. Shreyor bhuyar sakala jananam. Shreyor bhuyar sakala jananam. Shreyor bhuyar sakala jananam. Shreyor bhuyar sakala jananam. Shreyor bhuyar sakala jananam.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I
Thank
feel
you.
so lucky to be here for that. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
If I may, I'm going to go a little bit rogue and ask a follow-up sort of question. And I wonder for you, so many creatives talk about being in the zone whether you're working on a painting and you're like really sort of in that mindset. For you, it kind of almost felt, and for me at least, even as just listening, it felt like a spiritual experience. And I wonder, would you be able to just speak to that at all? Like where for you, how does that feel, like being in the zone with your heart or your mind? I don't know if you'd be willing to kind of share a bit about that experience for you, singing so beautifully.
Thank you very much for the compliment. Absolutely, it's a very divine and spiritual experience whenever you sing Carnatic music, because the lyrics mean a lot. And as I said earlier, they explain the meaning of the song. So when I, as an artist, I have developed over the years, I've realized that I really go into my own space of the tune, the raga, as we call it, the tunes with which we sing, and I get engrossed in that raga bhava. So that is a kind of the spiritual aspect that I can say as an art form, just as a painter holds the brush and is very steady with the brush, always trying to make sure that there's not a single error in that. So my focus and my spirituality also comes along with that.
Amazing. Thank you for giving that extra context. Sushmitha, I would love to put you on the spot a little bit now, and if you'd be willing to share a little bit more about your art and your creative practice. You're an amazing performer, and I'd love for you if you'd be willing to share a little bit of your art form. I know that we have a video clip. I don't know if you'd like to maybe explain it.
Yeah, before looking at the clip, I'll just give a little bit
Yes,
background
please.
of the art. So even Bharatanatyam is one of the 10 classical dance forms of India. So it's again from the southern part of India, mainly from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Sorry, not Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So again, if you look into the history, it can be dated back to 2nd century. The art was started at 2nd century. And the scriptures like Silangai Padam or A Tale of Anklet, that is where the first mention of the dance is there, where they talk about the dance. And there is a script called Natya Shastram written by Bharata Muni in the 2nd century, how the dance and the art has to be done, the entire documented about the dance, drama, and how a dancer has to be, and how a drama or a theater person has to perform. So everything has been documented. And if you look into the more scriptures, Bhagavata Purana is one of the Hindu text where it talks about the Krishna's Kalinga Nartana, where it first talks about the dance, and again about the Ras Leela, where Krishna dances along with the gopis in his childhood. You can see that even in Bhagavata Purana or as well as in Mahabharata scripts. It is said that Bharatanatyam is it's as the 5th Veda, because the contents have been taken from all the 4 Vedas, as Sandhya already mentioned about the Vedas, so I won't go deep into it. So it was taken by the 4 Vedas and formed a 5th Veda. That's why it is called as Natya Shastra. So this was a brief about the Bharatanatyam.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Sukhjit, would you mind sharing a small clip of the performance? Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. I think we're going to watch a little bit more, but before we do, I wondered if you might be able to. I know you mentioned sort of 10 different styles of dance, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah.
And would you say that they're very similar, or all 10 very
No,
distinct?
they
or
all are
is it-
very different. They all are very different. They are not similar.
Okay.
So each art form is different. So you have Kathak. Kathak is completely different compared to Bharatanatyam. So the Kathak is performed in the northern part of India.
Yeah.
And the music that goes along with Kathak is Hindustani. There is Odissi, there is Manipuri, there is Kuchipudi, there is Mohiniyattam, there is Yakshagana. There are a lot more, like nothing are similar, but everything became popular during 15th and 16th century when the Bhakti movement started. And when everyone danced either to the song for Krishna or to the Lord Nataraja. So the theme is always on Bhakti. It was mostly devotional based dances. So the song is always like, when I say the song, I would say like more of a Bhakti song, because it became popular during the Bhakti movement. So
Okay. Would you say we spoke with Sandhya about this idea of sort of going to almost like another place, like a spiritual place? Would you say the same for you with dance, or is it much more you're focused on the performance and making sure that
for me, dance is something where I can express myself. I feel within, I get involved with the character. So this was about the Devaki Kanda, where the Devaki, where the poet tells, narrates that Devaki, your son is Lord Krishna, and what all he did. He protected the Vedas. They talk about all his leelas in that song. So when I do this, I get like more of a motherly affection, like Devaki Kanda. I'm the Krishna's mom. So every time it's a different song, I just get involved in that character and just get to express myself. And it also, for me, it's more of a relaxing for me, more than being stressful or being like, oh my God, this is dance and what is going to happen. Like, it's more for me, get involved into the character, express out myself, what I would do if I was this character. So it's that kind of feeling for me.
Amazing.
And definitely for you to get involved, you have to feel the bhakti, otherwise it's not easy. Yeah,
that's great. Suchi, would you mind sharing the remainder of the dance? That was wonderful. Thank you. I know Sarita has a couple questions as well.
That was, earlier on, I was talking about live shows and how we miss them. After hearing Sandhya and seeing you, Sushmitha, I miss it even more. This was great, but it felt like a teaser. I really want this COVID to end so that we can actually experience this in live time and enjoy it, actually hear the sound, see your movement with my eyes and not through a screen. So thank you so much, both of you, for explaining and giving us a sample of your art. Really appreciate it. So as you know, this session is about newcomers. Now you both have experience, you have learned and also performed your art in your home country, India. So, and then you have come here with all your talent, you brought it to Canada. So I have a question about your newcomer, your journey here to Canada. So Sandhya, I'm going to ask you first. Why did you choose Canada and as your new home? And what is that attracted you to Canada the most? And if you could share a memorable story when you first came here, we would love to hear that. This evening is all about stories, so please share them as much as possible.
Thank you, Sarita. We moved here from the Gulf. Actually, I had moved out of India in 1990, and after I got married. And when I went to the Gulf, we lived there for about 10 years. And then when we were contemplating, as we had our child, and she was just getting older, she was just 6 years old. And that's when we started hearing about Canada, that many people from the Gulf are migrating. And we heard a lot of very positive feedback from people who have applied and visited the country. Till then, we had never visited Canada. So when we started thinking, we explored a bit, we researched a bit, and we felt that the quality of life could be better, and where we could bring up our child in a diverse kind of an atmosphere, expose her to different cultures from across the world. Personally, for me and for my husband, we wanted to have that personality growth and have an intellectual growth as well. So that was one of the primary reasons for us to leave such a hot place and come to such a cold country.
Very well said. And now I hope you do enjoy the cold weather.
Oh yeah, we enjoy all the 4 seasons. Let me put it that way.
Yes, great. And Sushmitha, you probably have some exciting stories to tell about your journey here.
Well, I must say that the destiny, or should I say the love found its way to this country. So I fell in love with a person who lived here for like more than 25 plus years. So married him and moved to Canada.
Oh, great. That's a
I
beautiful...
had no clue about how the place is going to be, what it is going to be. I just landed.
He didn't tell you about the snowstorms and the blizzards and all that.
I always enjoyed snow. Being in India, we never get to see snow. So he would always when we were seeing each other, once he showed me he had almost 3 feet snow. Oh, it's we had a huge snow. It's oh, wow, this looks so exciting. But yeah, I can feel the cold now.
That's so great, so good to hear that, a lot of newcomers, the first thing you ask them is they complain about the cold. But it's so nice to hear that you both enjoyed it and you embraced the winter seasons here. Great. Do you have a story to tell about that? Or if not?
Yeah, if I can. What I really remember and recall is the first winter is always the toughest one. And so I was advised by some people, even strangers, well, make sure that you have everything in place, because especially when you have a school going kid, make sure that you have enough pair of the same colors, because they'll always lose one of them. So I used to have all the same colors so that even if one gets lost, she can put the other one. So that was one of the funny things that I learned about how to manage the cold here, especially when you lose your mittens.
Excellent. Yeah.
That's fun. One question I was wondering for you both, and we spoke a little bit about different sort of lessons in education. Would you be able to speak a little bit about sort of the formal education as it relates to your practice or otherwise in India, and then how it relates to education here in Canada? I don't know. Sushmitha, would you mind going first?
Yeah, sure. I did my bachelor's in commerce back in India and MBA in HR and marketing. When I moved here, so I was looking at the jobs, and then I decided, okay, fine. My husband said, this is the place where if you want to start anything new, you can go ahead. And I always wanted to be a doctor. So he said, why can't you go ahead with that? And I said, okay, fine. That's an interesting thing. Since I had a commerce background, I had to redo my bachelor's and then do it. Then I thought I'm not going to invest 10 to 15 years in this. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't do my schooling or the college over here. So all my formal education or the training in my field is all back in India itself.
Yeah. What was that like? Was it frustrating? Or are you at peace with it now that you decided you don't want to do more schooling, or like?
No, it is really frustrating because I did had a couple of backup plans when I came here. I applied for my teacher's course in U of T, and they said, like, we received a lot of applications this year and you need to reapply. And I never heard a college saying, I'm not going to, you're not selected, because in India, you just apply and you get selected to whatever college if you have good scores. And there was a vice principal next to our house. He said, like, you know what, for you to get into a teacher's program, you should have a formal college over here, and then only you can apply. So again, to do a bachelor's, again, I have to redo my bachelor's. It's like, bachelor, again, bachelor, and I'll be just doing my bachelor's at the age of 30. And I was not ready to do that at that age. And I said, like, I'm not going to invest like 8 years just in studying, and I want to focus on my family. So yes, it is kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. So.
And life is long, and you may decide at a certain point, hopefully, that at another point. But I empathize with that frustration, and I can imagine. Yeah.
I mean, it's until and unless you're in an IT field, any formal education you have back in India, it's not valid over here. It's kind of disappointing because you would have invested a lot of time to study that, like, get a good scores and start a career. And when you come to a different country, all those things doesn't matter. It's really painful, but sometimes you just have to accept it.
Yeah, it seems like so often the newcomer story, right, is like excellent education that for some reason I would advocate for. I think there's got to be a way for that to shift a little bit. Thank you for sharing that experience. Sandhya, would you mind sharing a little bit about, for yourself, how that sort of has played out?
Actually, I have, in India, I studied mathematics. I'm a bachelor's and a postgraduate in mathematics. And I also did the teacher's training course in India. So I started teaching when I moved to the Gulf. I was a school teacher in the Indian school. And at the same time, I also continued tutoring at home, private lessons for mathematics, as well as I was teaching music too, which is my passion. And when I moved to Canada, I moved with a purpose, as I said earlier, that to improve myself. I always had a very open mind to learning. And my take was that I have to get something, I have to get the Canadian experience of learning in a university. That was my take on it. So my husband was also keen in pursuing his MBA. So I was just waiting for him to finish his executive MBA. And then I was wondering what to do. Meanwhile, I was working as a research assistant at the University of Toronto, the Rotman School. And that was a part-time job as a research assistant, which I really was very happy about. And at the same time, I was also a math tutor at Oxford Learning Centre in Mississauga. And of course, I had music. So when I was doing all this, and I was volunteering as well. So I was advised by some of my very good connections, whom I still value their connections till today, because they guided me in the right path. They said volunteering is a very great way to understand the Canadian way of living and to also decide as to what you would like to pursue. So I started volunteering my time at adult daycare centers. And I got to the first time I said, what is gerontology? I've never heard of that word before. And I came to understand what it was all about. It was a study of aging. Little did I know that it is going to be of great value, especially during the pandemic. So that was 20 years back, right? So I volunteered extensively, and I started doing my gerontology course at the certification at Ryerson University. So that's how I blended, and I tried to do all these things at the same time, but I realized it was too much on my plate. And one thing that I would tell to the newcomers, what I was told whenever I went looking around, because my passion was for teaching. And as Sushmitha said, I even tried to find out how exactly I could enroll myself at the U of T, which has a teaching trainers course there, and Queen's also has one. So all our credentials from home had to be certified in order to, I didn't go through that process because I felt it was a little laborious at that time. I didn't have the time to do it. But many of my friends who went through it, they successfully completed the teaching certification, and I settled. So.
Okay. Would you be able to expand just a little bit on, I think something that you just touched on that I would certainly love to explore with you is like the idea of being in Canada during COVID, and you just sort of, as somebody, as a newcomer to Canada, and then something so monumental happens to us all, right? As a world, something that certainly for most of us we've never sort of experienced. Would you be able to just talk about what that was like? I think for so many of us, like the relationship to home and like longing or wanting to see family. Would you be able to touch on that, and in relationship to to India? Did you especially, it was like particularly hard hit, and if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about that experience, because even me,
yes,
having family members quite close, it still felt like they were so far away, and I can imagine it being a difficult experience.
Absolutely. It was absolutely devastating since March of 2020, because we've lost so many people and so many of our dear friends and family whom, when I go back to India, I will not see them again, right? So that kind of thing, and there was no closure to it. It has been extremely difficult. And I can imagine the newcomers into the country, how difficult it would have been for them, especially to communicate. And of course, you have the WhatsApp video calls and whatever, the freebies that you have, because as a newcomer into the country, you don't have the resources to spend and splurge on calls and things like that. So internet is a big boon, I would say, which was not when I came into the country. It was not as developed with apps. So today, communication is at least a little cheaper than when I came into the country. So that was an advantage to a certain extent. But the fact of missing people back home was tremendous. Like, you feel very helpless that you're not there with your kith and kin to help them, to even to comfort them at the stage of grief. And, when you want to really be with them, that is a huge part. And you must understand, India is such a vast country. It's not just Delhi or Punjab. It extends up to south to Kanyakumari, where there are diverse languages. So it is a huge country with different people from different languages, and the distances are plenty. Even within the same city, you cannot go and see. Just as how we experienced the GTA, even in India, the cities are very large, and infrastructure could be quite a challenge with all the curfews in place. So yeah, it was a very tough time for me as well, personally.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry for the folks that you lost during this, incredibly difficult time. Sarita, I think you have a couple more questions.
No, I'm just going to take away from what Sandhya said. It is true that we have become a global community now, and it is hard for people who have family nearby, but it must be an extra hardship for people, especially newcomers who have family not only in India but all over the world. And it's a huge barrier not to see them, not to comfort them when they're sick. So I hope this was a great learning lesson for all of us. Whether you're a newcomer or you've been born in this country, but I definitely share your loss, Sandhya, and Sushmitha. We also have prayers for your family, and to all our audience here, we share your sadness, because all of us have gone through it in some capacity. So there is one thing that newcomers often face is it's almost a phrase now, which says no Canadian experience, no job. So Sushmitha, did you experience that? I know you came and you said your story about how you faced barriers in your educational field. How about in your adventure of trying to find a job? Did you try to find a job here, or tell us a little bit about that?
Life is very funny. So when we first met each other, and my father-in-law always used to say, life in Canada is not easy as you think. And I would always think, like, what difficult it can be in being in India. Like, it's a developed country, everything, it's so easy. Like, I'm well educated, and I was working in Indian Railway for last 13 years. And I said, like, I have a pretty good experience and I can easily find a job. It's not a big deal. And when my PR application was on process, I started applying to Go Transit and VRL, because that's the only field where I had experience. And I was looking at the post that is either one above my previous post or one below. And I was not ready to start my career from the bottommost. Climbing up the career ladder at the age of 30 would be very difficult, especially for women. And I said, like, I'm not going to compromise with that. If it is, it's going to be one above or one below. And when I started applying for my job, so my first rejection was, we are looking for, one with a work permit or a PR holder. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm going to get my PR in a couple of months. Should not be a problem. So when I landed here, again, I started applying for all the posts. And every time I would get a rejection saying, we are looking for a Canadian transit experience. And I would always wonder, why am I being rejected? It's the same rail, like it's the same rail service, that's the same track laid by British. It should not be a problem. And why I'm being rejected? I'm still wonder why I was being rejected with with a good lot of 13 years of experience. And it's not that I was in some bottommost post. I was in the mid-managed level where I had handled all the train planning and the train working and all other stuff. Before my previous post, I was working as a carriage and wagon controller who handles the coaches and wagons in the entire division. So I would wonder that, though Canada is a bigger country, the rail network in India is bigger than any other country. So it should not be easy for one to find job in the transit job. But little I knew they were very particular about Canadian transit experience, which I still don't know what exactly the Canadian transit experience mean. The way I overcame this is by starting up my own dance school. And I said, like, okay, fine. If this is not working, let me start my own dance school. Let me make my passion as my career. Very few get an opportunity to make their passion as a career. And I had a lot of support from my family back home. And like my husband said, like, go ahead. If this is what you want to do, just go ahead, focus on that. And when I went back to India, I told my teacher that I'm planning to teach Bharatanatyam. Like, do you think am I capable of teaching it? He said, like, of course you are. But if you want to make this as a profession, why can't you, master in that? You just have a bachelor degree in that. So why can't you do your master's in Bharatanatyam? So started studying for my master's in Bharatanatyam now. So other than my dance school, I love to write. I write blogs on Bharatanatyam so that it's just a small awareness to the Western world what exactly the classical art form is. Because when I get to perform, most of them will ask, like, can you perform for a Bollywood song? The Bollywood song is sort of not my identity. So want to bring out the actual identity of India. So I started writing blogs on the Bharatanatyam, how it is, where it started, and all other stuff. And other than that, I started volunteering with the Dishum Radio, and I host a show called as Sanskriti, My Culture, My Identity, where the key idea is everyone should know their culture, art and culture of their home country. They should be proud of it. So we initially started with India because being a comfort zone for me. And then we gradually focus with every different country and their art form. So one way of spreading the awareness. So this is how I broke the barrier of no Canadian experience.
Excellent, excellent story. That's great. You're a very brave girl, Sushmitha, of not backing down. And yes, I would say,
I had a lot of midlife crisis at the age of 30. Initially, when I was rejected, I would take it like, so what? I'm going to be a housewife. And when I would see all other friends working, I would sit down and I would cry. At this age, I'm doing anything. I did MBA and I'm coming here and I'm just cooking like a maid. This is what my life has come to. But like, my husband was like, he would support me always. And my aunt in US, she would say like, no, don't give up. You have to do it. If you have to study, go study. We have all gone through this. She was doing her PhD back in India, and when she came back, she had to do her master's again and do her PhD. She used to give her example. She moved in back in 70s, so she would tell her experience, and she would give me a lot of encourage and support to pursue whatever you want. Just don't give up. I used to break down a lot, and yes, I have been through that.
well, we still applaud you now. You have, and the best thing that came out of this is you have merged your passion and your career now together.
Yes.
So that is that's a good ending. If this was a library book, it would be one of the happy ending books. But you still have a lot to go. You have many years to follow your other passions.
That's
so great. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone in their 30s is having a bit of a, to your point, a bit of a crisis of identity and wondering like, what am I doing? Who do I want to be? I have all these different pressures and society and friends and life. So I think, yeah, just again, commend your like resolve in continuing forward, because I think, yeah, it can be so difficult. And I think too, like, for myself at least, I think about my life in different chapters, and this chapter is one section, but who knows what'll come next. But yeah, I think, yeah, as I mentioned, the 30s can be difficult for all of us, myself included, of like, what now? So yeah, congrats to you for pushing on forward. I had a bit of a specific question. I wondered if you might be able to talk a little bit about, I know you have your students, if you could speak a little bit about who you take on as students and why. I'd also be curious, you mentioned, you're not interested in Bollywood. And I wonder if you could explain a little bit more, like, what do you mean by that? For many of us, we have this idea of Bollywood, which I think is very stereotypical. I think probably in a lot of cases quite racist. And I think if you could just speak a little bit about that, like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bollywood.
So Bollywood is not the identity of India. I'm sorry if I'm hurting anyone's feeling, but that's not the Indian identity. India has a lot to talk about: its culture, its art, music. Okay, to begin with, when the first Indian cinema started, so the actress should be a qualified classical dancer. Otherwise, they would never take them as an actress. So if you see the movies back in like 50s and 60s, the song or the dance sequence would be a proper classical dance. And what you see today is not the dance what you would see the movies back set in 50s and 60s. Very renowned actress like Vaijayantimala, Padmini, all of them are trained classical dancers. And even for the 90s generation, Madhuri Dixit is again a trained Kathak dancer. So everyone are trained, were trained back in classical. Just like if you have to get into the movie industry, it was a mandatory that you had to be trained in a classical dance. If you cannot dance, you cannot be part of the film industries. But things have changed. A lot of Western influence. So the music that you listen today, it's all like fast beat, peppy beat, and like fast track. The beats are fast, and people like that. They enjoy. I mean, there's no wrong in that. But when you ask a classical dancer to do a classical dance, to a Bollywood song is not fair. So if you can ask someone to dance to a Bollywood song, it's fine, but don't ask a classical dancer to dance to a movie song. That's not the identity of the classical art. So if you want to see an actual art of an Indian, just allow the dancer or the artist to keep the originality. So if I have to say, ask a ballet dancer to dance for a song, the latest rap song, would they do it? No.
Yeah.
They would say like, no, just leave. So it's the same thing. If ballet is respected, even Indian classical art has to be respected. It's the same. It's just, most of them don't get opportunity if they don't perform. So most of them compromise. I said, like, okay, at least I get to perform. So let me just go ahead and do it, whatever the organizer asks. But you can say no to it because that's not the identity. So we should learn something from the ballet dancer where they stick to the root and they say, no, we won't dance to any of the Western song. We will stick to the traditional art form. So that is how the tradition has to be maintained. That is my opinion. Otherwise, the art will die at one stage.
Well, and I think too, by you taking that stance as like, regardless of discipline, it only hurts the next dancer if you start compromising, right? And it's like if an artist starts saying, oh, I don't need to be, paid for my time, or I'm just happy for the opportunity, or whatever it might be, it's like you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting future generations, and I think that's why it's so important to kind of take that stance, to your point, of a ballet dancer saying, I'm not going to dance to hip hop, I want to dance to what I should be dancing to, is you're teaching a bit of a lesson there too, which I think is super important.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so answering to your first question, so I train for kids starting at the age of 4 and to whatever age they are interested in. I do have a couple of ladies who are 30 who are learning Bharatanatyam from me. Yes, it is sad that there are no male students. I really regret that, and I would love to teach a male student. Most of them think that if a male dances, he's going to become a gay. He's going to become, he'll start acting like a girl. But no, that's not the case. Why do you think just because someone likes a jewelry, someone expresses the shringaram or the beauty, in their dance, they become a female? That's not the case. There is a way to teach the art form to the male when it comes to Bharatanatyam. I can stand for that. Usually when a male dances, that's what I learned from my guru. When we had a fellow male dancers, he would say, men are supposed to express Shringara in the form of bhakti, that is the devotion. So my love for Krishna is different. When a male express his love for Krishna should be a bhakti. So it's two different concept when it comes to teaching for a male and a female dancers. If you mix two different things, then yes, the male dancer would look very feminine when they're performing, but that's not the case. Just because they learn the Shringaram, they won't act like a female, they won't become a gay. Most of them think if they learn Shringaram, they end up becoming a gay. No, that's not the case. So I'm sure if a man wants to learn a ballet, I'm sure he has a same taboo as well, because I've heard from a couple of my friends who want to learn ballet, and they would say like, oh my God, you're a boy, you're supposed to play, sports. Why do you want to dance? Like, why not? What's the harm in male dancing? If they love to dance, they should be allowed to dance. There's nothing wrong in that. It's just an art. So if a female can play a basketball, if a girl can play basketball, if she wants to play a rugby, if she wants to play tennis, it's allowed, right? So same thing with the men. If he wants to dance, yes, he should be allowed to dance. Like, it's just a concept that most of them have to get rid of from their mind, that they won't become a gay, they won't become transgender or anything. Sorry, no, that's not the case.
Now, is that something that you find, and I'd be curious for both of you, Sandhya, as well, but like, is that a tension that is difficult to sort of explore, this idea of sexuality and gender by Canadian standards compared to perhaps what they were in India, whereas in Canada, we're during Pride Month, gender is something that's very fluid, and you know, even just saying male or female, it's like, is there you know, I'd be curious, has that been difficult to
Yeah, with regard to Carnatic music, it's all inclusive. There's no discrimination at all. When it comes to singing, because Carnatic music is just a tool to express all the rich traditions and rich mythological stories that India has to offer through their songs, through different languages. And it is, it's definitely not discriminatory. It includes everyone. And whether it's transgender, anyone can sing, anyone can dance. Even in India, you have people from all backgrounds learning the art form. Yeah, today it's a very different scenario in India, where you have male dancers, many of them making a mark for themselves. So I believe that there is a need to create awareness about this art form itself in Canada. The thing is that both the classical Bharatanatyam as well as Carnatic music, both have to be being exposed to the mainstream, if I can say so, because that education and that kind of awareness, if it is created right from the young minds, it will really go a long way in the rich diaspora that we have in Canada. So because everybody is going to benefit, because you not only know about these songs are, I mean, music is generally a very soothing a way of, getting away from the stress of life, right? Even dance too. You just leave your stress away when you're doing that. So when we have such rich tools with us, we want to share it and we want to educate the people to enjoy the benefits, how much we enjoy, right? So we want everyone to benefit by it. So I would rather put it the lack of awareness, in my humble opinion. I think that is the key. The education is most important, because people, I'm sorry to say this, that when they consider India, they only think of only one aspect of India, which is the samosas, the Punjabis, the Hollywood, the Bollywood, if I may say so. It's not so. It's diverse in its language, it's diverse in its tradition, it's diverse in its cuisine, and everything that even the attire that I'm wearing today, the sari, it's worn differently in different states of India. So it's that diverse a country. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Sandhya, very right. India is a very diverse country with so many languages, so many cuisines, so many art form. It would be a treat in itself to actually visit each state and enjoy their cultural offerings, because it's actually like going from one country to another country.
Exactly.
So that it is a very rich country, and just like many other countries in the world, each state has its own offerings, and it's for us to enjoy. And the key is awareness, definitely. Now, I have a burning question. I don't know if we have to give some time for the audience, but I do have a question here that I've been thinking about. Now, you both have come to Canada at different times. So, Sandhya, when you first came here, was there, I don't want to use the word taboo, I would like to say there's progress all the time happening. So was there something, and this is in keeping with the word awareness, was there something that you were not able to do then, but you can do now? It doesn't have to be a political or a statement, just something in your daily life, a simple thing that you were not able to do then because people were not aware of your culture, or you were afraid to do it, or you were conscious about doing it, but now you can freely do it. Do you have a story of that way?
I can give you many examples, but to state one, it's my identity, like say, for example, like what I wear, right? Like especially we have the bindi. So we have it in different shapes and sizes. People who have seen Bollywood will admit that, okay? So when I came into the country, though I used to wear Western outfits, especially during winter, it's part of our own sentiment and our own thing to wear the dot and go. But then my own friends in the Indian diaspora, they used to tell me that, hey, don't go out like that. You don't want to go out and be spotted out as an odd person in the mall. Especially when you go to the mall, make sure that you don't wear an Indian outfit. Now, fast forward in 2021, wherever I turn, I see only Indian clothes too. So that's a big change. And it also, I must admit that it's more of an acceptance. There is an acceptance here. And I think, and people have come out of that cocoon of that fear. I feel that. And I think that's how it should be. That's how any progressive society should be, to be more welcoming and more accepting. And I think Canada is that way. It is such a vast country with diverse cultures, with different, I always tell this to my friends in India. Any country that you can name in the world, looking at the map, you will find that community there in Canada, for sure, in the GTA. That's how proud I am of Canada, because Canada welcomes everyone that way.
That's great. True. Sushmitha, do you have a story like that? A then and now story?
I never experienced anything like that. I had all the freedom to wear whatever I chose or liked. No discrimination, nothing. Probably I moved like 2014, so it was quite advanced. But I have heard a couple of stories from my extended friends and family members over here, where they would say, like, back in those days, and probably 70s and 80s, they were, they would like see them very differently when they wore Indian dress. So most of them would prefer wearing a Western clothing when they stepped out of the house. So yeah, never experienced one, but I've heard stories.
Yeah. Well, if I can,
I'm just lucky not being part of that era.
That's definitely. Oh, yes, we have come way steps ahead. And if I may share one of my stories, is I find there's a huge step in the progress of cuisine. When I came, and this was many, many moons ago, there were hardly any Indian restaurants, and we could hardly find any Indian spices at regular stores. But now you have the opportunity to taste Indian food in umpteen restaurants. So that I think is a then and story for me now, is to enjoy Indian cuisine anywhere and everywhere. But that being said, that was my story. So let's ask our guests some more interesting stories about their journey and their settling down here. So do you have a question, Michael, or should I continue there?
I'm happy to. I think one thing through this discussion I'm curious about is if you were to give some advice to to an earlier version of yourself, what would it be, as somebody who's getting ready to just looking back on it all, to start a new life in Canada, what would be some of the advice that you would give, or to folks that are, arriving now to Canada and starting a new life? Like, what would be, it's a very big question, I realize, but, what would you try to share with them?
So every individual goes through a different life journey, and it depends on what circumstances they come here and what the reasons they chose Canada to come for. I can only talk from my perspective, obviously. As I had an attitude that I had to learn, and I wanted to learn more. So I had an open mind to even age is not a factor. That's what I understood when I came to Canada, to learn, to educate. Even at the age of 80 today, there are Indo-Canadians who are completing their PhDs. So that is something that we as newcomers, just because you have spent X amount of money to educate yourself in your home country, it's always nice to know something more about the country, and you can always have an open mind. What I would suggest is even a short course in any Canadian, even a college or even a university, that helps, because you network with people. And when you network with people, that is your first step in establishing connections. I was told when I came here, those were the days when we didn't have smartphones, remember? So I only carried a small book and a pen with me. One friend told me this when I attended a session. She said, you never know where you will meet the person who's going to hire you. It could be even in the elevator of your apartment building. So, that was something, but I carried it very strongly. And I had a very tiny book where I hardly had 2 contacts because I never knew a single soul in this country when I came in. And at the end of the year, or after 2-3 years, I had to purchase more address books to include my contacts. That's how it multiplies. So I want that positive kind of feeling to come for the newcomers. Reach out to people, never feel shy. I was not a shy person. I would go and reach out to make the connections, especially for my music. To develop my music classes, I would go to my daughter's school. When I go to pick her up, I would interact with parents from different backgrounds. I was not at all shy. And I learned a lot about different cultures through that process. I had friends from Ukraine, from China, from Japan, and you learn a lot in the process. So my advice would be only that have an open mind and always carry something. Today you have smartphones, you can just enter the contact, you have the Facebook, you have so many ways in which you can connect, LinkedIn and so on. We never had that then. So when we have traversed that path, and today, if we are saying here and sitting in front of you, I think that speaks volumes of how a person should be determined to succeed and connect with the right people who give you that boost, who try to put that positive spin. And another thing, which I really wanted to tell you was, you might have wondered, I started with mathematics, I talked about music, I said about education as a teacher and gerontology. I wear different hats for sure, but I tried to use my transferable skills. In education, you have to have the good, in a way of teaching. So I use that teaching technique to completely utilize that in my teaching career as a musician. So it's transferable. I might have taught mathematics, but that comes in handy. You never know what comes in handy. The knowledge is something that can never be taken away by any individual. Knowledge always stays. That's my take.
May I just ask you to continue, Sandhya, here, and that because I did catch on about you working with the seniors along with music, and how do you transfer that knowledge, and how do you take on that role with the seniors?
So with seniors, I dealt with seniors from in the Indian community as well as from the Caucasian community in the GTA. So when I had to translate, of course, however much you say that music is a universal language, it'll speak for itself when you sing, right? But there is a component that where the language component comes in, plays a huge role. So one has to explain the meaning. One has to communicate that properly and authentically to the audience. Then they can at least try to have the connection. So that was something which I did with seniors. And seniors are more embracing to learn something new. That's what I experienced. So whether it was my interaction with seniors at the Life at Ryerson, where the average age was 75, and they learned how to do the thalam of the Carnatic music. It was fascinating. And you learn so much in the process. So I feel that it's the need of the hour for us to expand our mindset and our hearts to seniors from different backgrounds in the country, because all they need is that human voice and that care to just say, hey, how was your day? And would you like to hear some music? And then they're all on. I mean, it's just like magic, like how they react to music. So when we have these art forms in hand, and especially instrumentalists are at a greater advantage. I would like to add that, because in instruments, you only hear the music. You don't hear the lyrics. So it's even more easy for you to play anything that you would like to do. So it's you'll have to explore. That's what I feel. We have to do our research and we have to explore a lot. And it's an ongoing learning. I still continue to learn. That's what I say.
Very good. Very good.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Michael, I took your question away and you were going to ask Sushmitha the same question that you asked Sandhya.
Oh, no worries at all. But yeah, Sushmitha, I would be curious what advice you would share.
Well, I would say that, it's not a perfect place for everyone. one should be able to, one should be happy and embark the life the way it comes. With like, especially when you come for a new country, when you start a new life, just accept with an open mind what you get. And everyone have their own struggles, and they have found success over the period. So when I came here, when I started my school, Sandhya was like a great help for me. So I'm one sort of a person that if I know someone, I won't stop talking. And if I don't know the person, I won't open my mouth. So she would tell me, like, the best thing to start a conversation in Canada is talk about the weather. And I would say, like, why would I do that? And so, like, no, this is how everyone talks. If you find someone on the street, say, so the weather is good. I would never step out of my house. I would just stay inside the house. I would never go out. I never knew who was my neighbor. I would find, like, what will I do? Go out. Like, I don't fit in here. I don't have anything to do, but she was a great help. She would, like, if I had any problem, or when I started my school, if I had any struggles, I would just talk to her. She would give me a lot of push. She said, like, no, this is how you have to do. You need to work on this. This is how you have to teach kids over here. The older way of teaching back in India won't work here. So give some presentation, show them some video clipping. It was like, oh, okay, fine. Okay, these things will really help. But, bank onto someone who's there to guide you. Like, they have their experience, but it need not their experience be like work for you, but somewhere something might help you out. So just have an open mind for things, how it comes in your life, embark it, enjoy the life. You will definitely find success.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sushmitha. Thank you. I'm glad that you're my friend so that you can talk to me.
Yeah, now if I open my mouth, I don't stop.
Yeah, I feel like that piece of advice, Sandhya, about the weather is a key one. Everyone loves to talk about the weather, whether it's what it is now or what it's going to be on the weekend. It's like that's a very good go-to.
Yeah, that's what I do now to strike a conversation. Now, being a dog mom, everyone in the neighborhood knows me. So.
That's great. It's good to hear. Sandhya, I'm going to ask you a question in a different perspective. I know in our Newcomers success stories sessions, we usually focus on the person about their journey. But initially you said you came here with your daughter. So how was it for you as a newcomer mother, or including your husband, newcomer parents? How did you guide your daughter in this new environment? Or what tips do you have for our audience who are also, who have migrated as a family? So if you could address some of that.
Thank you. What I would like to tell is that my daughter was pretty young. She started elementary school when she came in here. She was just 6. So it was a new environment for her, a very, very, she's just always full of questions like any other child would be. And she would really like to make friends, a very sociable child. And so when she went to school, it was not the easy path for her. I would like to admit that it was a little tough for her for a great extent. And I was trying to work with all my part-time jobs. So it was very, very challenging. Let me put it that way. It was. And the fact that I and my husband and myself, we had decided that we would not put her in any daycare or with anybody. So I used to time all my activities and my work. Luckily, I had good employers who understood where I'm coming from, that I could, what I could do was leave her at school, finish my work, and then rush back to pick her up from school. It was very stressful on me, definitely, because I had to do all that. But coming back to how the child adjusts to the school, because sometimes you don't have enough time to tell your child. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't have, because I understand for all working women and men out there, it's very difficult to give that quality time to your child, because your child is always in the school for 8 hours in the day and only few hours for dinner time and for the morning breakfast, they are with you. So that is a huge struggle. And for us to communicate and sit and have a relaxed time, because you want to make your ends meet on one end, because you've got the job and you have to be there for your child as well. So, but I would always encourage her to go to the library and go with her and always get a lot of books and get to know in the process. I would also educate myself about Canada, which I didn't know. So whether it's a school projects, whether it's anything, and always be there for your child, like go for all the picnics and all the things, that go as a parent volunteer. The more parents are involved in the school as parent volunteers, whether it's for pizza day, lunches, or for any excursion or a date field trips, you got to be there and be involved in your child's progress. So that's one way, again, for you to meet other people from other countries as well. And you learn also, it is good, hey, where are you working? You just say that, hey, I'm looking for such a job. And that's a great way to network when you're trying to also, especially at the schools, when you wait there to receive your children. So that was my journey. And for her to, she also learned music along, because when I was teaching my students at Gaanavarshini, she used to always sit in the classes and I would encourage her to also sing. She's also a Bharatanatyam dancer. So she would go for dance classes. I would go along with her. So this is how so we kept the culture aspect, that Indian culture aspect also going along with the blending of with the Canadian society. So that was how it was. But it was definitely a challenge, because kids will definitely ask you questions. Sometimes you will not have the answers, which is convincing for them.
Wonderful. Yes, it is. It is a struggle for new parents, young parents, as it is. And coming as a newcomer, it is doubled, I guess, the stress. But thank you. It seems that you have managed very well, and it's a good thing, and it's good for our audience to learn about the struggles that you have faced and overcome. We have almost come to our time where we are going to take questions from the audience. So before that, can I ask one more question? Sorry, I'm being like, Sushmitha, I cannot stop talking. So I'm going to ask this to you, Sushmitha, first, and then maybe Sandhya, you can add your answer too. When you came to Canada, you learned so many things. For example, the example that you gave about talking about the weather was so perfect. It's a very good learning. So what, out of all the things that you learned to adjust here in this country, what was the biggest surprise that you, as one of the learnings, that you were surprised that you learned this? This is kind of a tough question, so answer it any way that you think. But each one of us has a learning that they were surprised to say that, oh, I have learned this. Okay.
I'm still learning. If I have to be precise, there is so much Canada has to offer, so much. So every day it's a different story. I learn different things from people around when I meet different people. I would say it's still a learning process for me.
Okay, great. And Sandhya?
I would like to add a touch, be a little humorous here. So when I came to this country, I had to learn driving, right? One of the basic necessities of life. So being in suburb. So when I tried to learn, I still do have a very poor sense of direction. So, and then the country that I lived for 10 years in the Gulf, we never had a we just had a postal address. We never had any street name. Forget about intersections and so on and so forth. So if anybody had to give us directions when I was living in Oman, they would say, you go past, they would give you all landmarks of buildings and the color of the building. And then they would say that, it's a muddy kacha road. And then there will be a tree there. You take a right turn. That's how it was. Come here. And then they say, we are living south of Dundas on this. I said, south of Dundas, which direction? My sense of direction. So that is something what I had to read. My husband would always tell me, read the map, know how to read the map. I said, how do I read a map? So those were the things that I do. It was really challenging to learn and to drive. Of course, I drive and I drive very safely, don't worry. But what I'm saying is that sense of direction, that north, south, east, west, and how you should understand the terminology. We would say a junction, for example, in India. Here you say intersection, at the intersection of so and so, and things like that. So traffic lights, you get to understand that jargon as well. So
I'm
that
still
was
learning with that direction. Even when I was first told, the other day I was telling someone how to go to a Walmart on Appleby line. I would say just go straight, take a right turn, go straight, then you will find an intersection, just go straight, towards your left is your Walmart. My husband was listening to this and he said, like, that's not how you give a direction. I said, like, that's how you give a direction. And he said, like, you should say north or south. I said, like, how would someone know? Will they be holding a the compass to say which direction are they standing? So it took 7 years for me to realize which direction the south is, and I still don't know where east and west is.
Thank God for GPS.
exactly. I was about to say that.
Even
Yeah.
today I get scoldings for not knowing the direction, and I'll be like, I've seen the street somewhere, but I don't know where we are. So that's one very I'm still struggling to learn, and as I said, it's a learning thing for me even now. I haven't learned anything, still learning.
Right. It's true. Many people, newcomers, will associate and definitely the direction north, south, east, west is very unique direction over here. Not right and left, but north, south. Yes, very good. So yeah, so that these are wonderful stories, and thank you for sharing them. Sujit, where are we with our next stage over here?
Yes, so I was going to actually ask the audience if they would like to ask questions, and I wrote in the chat if I can unmute anyone. We are open to questions now. I haven't got any questions specifically through Facebook, but we do have people, going along with our discussion on our chat here on Zoom. Anyone have a question? Or if you don't want to unmute yourself, you can also put it in the chat. Sushmitha, go ahead. Yeah, you can.
Hi there. Very interesting discussion. Very nice, impressive guests. And Sandhya, I am like really impressed by you, your struggle, and Sushmitha, you too. Sandhya, my first question is from you, and then I'll ask Sushmitha. That singing, is it like possible for everyone to sing? Like, can we learn singing, or do you need a special voice or like, something to sing?
Music is something universal, but when it comes to vocal singing, one definitely has to have a kind of a ear for music, right? First of all, we start with the ear and then we come to the throat. So we have to have a ear for music. Second of all, definitely, that's very good. Awesome. What I'm trying to say is one has to have a kind of the pitching, as we say, the tambura, which you heard me play when I was singing, you got to have that fine tuning with it. See, if everybody could sing, everybody would be, really on top of the world. There is a reason why some people can sing, some people cannot. But for those people who cannot sing or cannot have the kind of modulation that is required, or the pitching is a problem, I always tell them that you should go and learn an instrument, because you want to learn music. So the other alternative is you have to go and learn an instrument, which is still music.
Thank you. And Sushmitha, for you, like, I know that Kathak dance is like what I've been told, that it's about the performance on some katha, some story, some incident. So what is Bharatanatyam? Like, what is that performance or dance?
So Bharatanatyam, like initially when Kathak started, there would be a group of story narrators, and they would narrate the story. To enhance the story narrating, they would use their hand to make it more expressive. So that is how Kathak evolved. But whereas Bharatanatyam, it had a form and structure. It had like a discipline, how you have to use your mudras, how you start your dance, and they dance for a set of the Carnatic music, which was back then formed by Tanjore Quartet. They are quite renowned in Bharatanatyam dancer. They set a margam or a repertoire for the Bharatanatyam. They said like, okay, this is how a Bharatanatyam performance has to be done. Unlike Kathak, the way it started, like it's always danced to the music, always to the Carnatic music, and it's been continuing the same way. It was never story narrating and then changed into dance form. That was not the case with Bharatanatyam.
Okay, thank you. And I feel that, you know, it's good that you didn't have that experience, a job like a Canadian job experience. Otherwise, we would have lost, like, you know, a good teacher, dance teacher. So it's good that now you are a dance teacher and you are doing it with full enthusiasm. Very good dancing, very good. Do some performance on this story, this Kathak, like do make something that when you came and applying and like little, like, you know, sadness and little these things, and then successful dance teacher, do some performance about this. Like people would love to have that thing.
Yeah, we'll definitely collab with Sandhya for the music, because I'm not good at music. So I have to bank on her for that then. Definitely.
You're lucky to have her.
Yes, that's
Support
really.
is always there for you, Sushmitha. Yeah.
Thank you for your.
Thank you for that great question. Thank you.
Right.
Does anyone else have questions? Thanks so much, Sushmitha, for asking those questions.
Okay.
Anyone else? I don't have anything, Sarita, on Facebook right now.
Okay, and then may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
All right. We've talked about the journey. We've talked about the job experiences. We've talked about the struggles, the weather, and all that. Sukhjit is probably going to say, "Oh, there she comes back to food again." But I am coming back to food again. So, how did you adjust to Canadian food? Was that a struggle? Did it come easy, or do you have a favorite Canadian food? What was your journey on Canadian cuisine?
To be honest, Sarita, in our family, we all love Indian food, the South Indian food, which is very different from Northern India, where you have a lot of rotis and chapatis and naans. Here we have the idli, sambar, dosa, the rice, the varieties of rice that we prepare, and the varieties of chutneys that we prepare. It's very different. So, you know, exhausting all of them itself takes time, right? So, and that itself, so much variety. So we really definitely, I have definitely loved this beaver's tail, which is like a dessert, the vegetarian option, like where it's like, you know, it's in the shape of the beaver's tail. I came to know about
Canada's Wonderland.
Yes, but I had it in Ottawa.
You have beaver still.
Yeah, I had it in Ottawa in Byward Market, which is famous for the beaver's tail, I believe so. So when I visited my daughter there, it was really wonderful. I mean, we loved it. And the first time that I had it was, I think, at a fair in Mississauga, where the Central Celebration Square. They had some a celebration out there, and that's when I first tasted it, and I loved it. So that's something that's my favorite.
So you have a sweet tooth. Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. How about you, Sushmitha?
I'm a vegetarian, so never try to explore anything outside my limitation. So the one I really enjoyed was Hawaiian pizza with the pineapples on that. So it's very, very Canadian of having a pizza with pineapple. So it was like, oh, interesting, pineapple in a pizza. So ever since then, I'm a huge fan of Hawaiian pizza.
Great. And I think, Sukhjit, we have a question from the audience.
Yes, we have a question from Christina. Her question is, what would you like to see offered through the city to contribute to a flourishing performing arts atmosphere for artists and residents?
Thank you for the question, Christina. It's the art forms of India are, as you would have realized, that there's so much to offer and so much to educate and create awareness, which I kept telling you earlier. Definitely the city of Brampton, if I understood your question correctly, you wanted to know how we can showcase these talents and showcase these kind of performances. We need more collaborative efforts on this. We need key awareness with the main the directors or the board members. Some of them have a knowledge of this, some of them may not have, I'm not sure, but they have to be informed about the variety that we can offer. And there are a lot of artists, not only Sushmitha and myself in the Indo-Canadian community, who have a variety of art forms which we can incorporate. And I believe that through the arts, we can educate a lot of young minds as well to respect different cultures, respect people from different diverse backgrounds. So I'm telling this from a personal experience when I collaborated with the Mississauga Festival Youth Choir, where I trained more than 50 youth of different varied cultural backgrounds to sing a Hindi song. And that was a very nice experience. And we performed at a church. So, education, music is a very important tool to educate, and it can be used very nicely in a very harmonious way. So that's my take. I hope I've answered your question.
Well, I should have mentioned that she works for the city, so that's why she was inquiring.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then we have a comment. Arts is like a vehicle for change and learning, which is very true.
Sushmitha, did you want to comment on Christina's question? Did you have anything to offer?
Yes, I have seen in other towns like, Vaughan, where the city invites people from different cultural background to perform. Initially, when I first came here, I got an opportunity to perform at Richmond Hill Community Center. So it's just as Sandhya said, it's the matter of awareness. If all the town has this kind of awareness, it would be nice. I would drive all the way from Oakville to Richmond Hill just to perform. I would feel so bad that no one in Oakville would ask for me to come and perform. Like, it's like, why not in Oakville? Even now, if they invite me, I just drive all the way to Richmond Hill and I do perform even now. But it would be nice if every town decide, comes to an understanding, try to understand the art form and invite artists of different background and genre. It would be really nice.
Great. Lovely.
Great. We do have a last request, which I got a personal message. Sandhya, one more, if you can, 1 minute clip of a song, and then I'll end it from there.
Sorry, you would like me to sing a song?
Like,
Yes.
just a clip. You don't have to sing a full song, even like a minute. We have another.
Your fans want more, Sandhya.
Yes.
People are begging for more.
Okay, I'll just sing 2 lines. Give me a second.
Yeah. That's big thanks to the requester.
It's a Tamil song. It talks about peace. Shanti nilava vendum, yengum shanti nilava vendum, ulagile shanti nilava vendum, ulagile shanti nilava vendum. Atma Shakti Yoga Vendum,
சாந்தி நிலவ வேண்டும் எங்கும் சாந்தி எங்கும் சாந்தி எங்கும் சாந்தி
Thank you so much. You both are so talented. It's not easy to just say that on virtual. I wish we could honestly tell you that in person. That we really highly value your time and like that for you guys to join us this evening. Before I end, Sarita, did you want to say anything else, or Michael?
Well, Michael, you go first, and then I'll.
Oh, I would just say a huge thank you. A huge thank you for everyone joining us this evening. Sushmitha and Sandhya, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and your experience and all of your stories. Thanks to everyone else for being here and taking some time out of your evening to learn with us. Like Katie mentioned, like this idea of arts as a vehicle for sort of learning and sharing, right? As I think we saw, you know, our conversation weaved in all sorts of different ways. So yeah, just a huge thank you, and a huge thank you, Sarita, for the opportunity to co-host with you. That means a lot to me.
It was a pleasure, Michael. Having here was really fun, and what can I say but a huge thank you to Sushmitha and Sandhya for being here with us. And I'm going to hand it back to Sukhjit again.
Okay, so from myself and from Brampton Library, thank you so much, Sandhya and Sushmitha, for an amazing evening full of your personal stories and so much more. We feel that we were almost a little part of your journeys while you were coming to Canada. You both spoke so well about your personal lives and struggles, which is not an easy thing to talk about. Your singing and dancing segments were outstanding and unique. Also, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us for this special evening and for helping us co-host this event. We look forward to seeing everyone at our next event, which will be held in October. And we look forward to seeing you at other library events as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Sarita, Michael, and Sukhjit for having us over. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thanks a lot, giving an opportunity to be part of this event. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Sukhjit. Thank you, Sarita.
Okay. Bye.